Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of us hanging around the table here. My name's Brad. I'm one of the ministers here. I'm here with Mark today.
What's up, y'all?
Mark is our worship guy.
Yeah.
You've probably seen him on stage rocking his hats. You got different hats every week, don't you?
Yeah. I haven't had a haircut in a while.
So that's why the hats?
Yeah. And it's been cold.
It has been cold.
So sometimes you want to sleep in, and sometimes you don't want to go through a 10 to 20 minute process of fixing your hair.
I don't have that problem of fixing my hair for 20 minutes. But so speaking of being cold, what did you do for the last 6 days being trapped in your house?
You know, it's been a really fun few days, honestly. Like, spent a lot of great time with the family. We built an igloo.
I know. I saw the picture.
That was like 6 feet tall, maybe
it was
7
huge.
feet tall. It's
when
pretty
you
awesome.
said you built one, I was like, oh, okay. But then you posted a picture. I was like, you built it like a...
Yeah. And when I said I built an igloo, my wife built the igloo. My wife has a sculpture degree and put it to great use.
It was legit.
I was shoveling the driveway, breaking up chunks.
And you put a top on it and everything,
We
right?
did. Yeah, it's completely enclosed. Yeah.
The kids been in it a lot?
I've got pictures. The cat got on top of it. We got the dogs running around it too.
Yeah.
We also went sledding a lot.
Yeah.
Played a lot of board games, played some video games.
What's your go-to board game?
Oh, we played all different types of stuff. And so some of the ones are more like kid-friendly.
Yeah.
The other ones are a little bit more too complex.
What's the one
Everdell,
the family liked the most?
Everdell was the highlight this week.
Everdell.
Yeah, it's a bunch of little tiny creatures that are. It's like a worker placement game. I don't want to get too nerdy, but yeah, it's really fun.
Mark
is
really very
fun.
nerdy, by the way, in case you were wondering.
I am. Yeah, we don't get to talk about that too much.
Yeah.
But I do love me a board game or
He's
two.
a board gamer.
Yeah, big Magic the Gathering fan too.
Yeah.
So
Pokemon.
A little bit of that. I love Pokemon, man. Yeah, I'm been playing Pokemon for almost 30 years now. It's
so
crazy.
you're like a master Pokemon then. So what is your default for you? Like when you're trapped, stuck inside, like what's your family's default? What do you guys do?
Well, I think, hot chocolate with the snow is a must, right? But I mean, it kind of throws you out of rhythm. But I think for this time, it was really helpful. I didn't realize how little margin I have normally.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of nice to have that shutdown to be able to kind of rest and relax. I slept till 7:45 a couple days. I haven't done that in who knows how long.
Like 7:45 p.m.
No, a.m. Like waking up like a little bit later as opposed to.
Do you remember back in the day when you could sleep till like 2 or 3 in the afternoon?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was before I had kids.
Yeah.
And before I had dogs.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Our dog and our cat wake us up. So we've been talking through this series about parables and stories, and we're talking about how so many of them happen at tables or on the way to a table or away from a table or eating a meal. And this one really is more geared around like the silence and solitude that Jesus sought when he was praying. And so one of the things that we talked about yesterday or, Sunday, was that idea that Jesus's disciples kept seeing Jesus pray.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you think that they saw in him that their first question was, hey, Jesus, teach us how to pray? Like, what do you think they saw? Like, what was it that they were like, because they didn't, we don't know if they asked them other things, but specifically there, they say, can you teach us how to pray? Like they see something in him.
Right. I think it was the close relationship. And, I think that manifests in different ways, but I think it's this confidence, if you will, in terms of just the believing what you pray is going to be heard. I think that's a really important step that I see in other people's prayer lives, like as I was being mentored and growing up. I think too, another thing would be not just the close proximity, but probably the consistency.
Yeah.
Like I don't know about you, but there's some weeks that I pray a lot, and other weeks that I hope more than I pray.
Oh no, I pray every day.
So,
I mean, I wish I did. I do sometimes, like you said.
Yeah. And you got the mealtime thing.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to start a little bit more consistency with the meal times this year at dinner as opposed to just sitting in front of the TV a lot.
Yeah.
But the snow day, I don't think we sat down once to have a formal meal together. It was more just survival mode, people snacking all day, eating at different times, raiding the fridge. We made a few meals, but it wasn't.
Can you think of somebody in your life that you were like their prayer life is legit? Like you were like,
I can name you one person who goes to our church.
Yeah.
And I think that they'd be okay with me saying this.
Okay.
But they'd be like, no. And that's Mary and CJ Mahalko.
Yeah.
Man, like Mary on our worship team is just a prayer warrior, and she leads the charge when we talk about our front lines
She
and going
does.
to battle. Mary's right there on the front of it all, just kind of leading the charge in the back. Sometimes you see that on stage on the platform, but really what she brings in the green room is so encouraging and uplifting, just to keep our focus on Jesus. So she's definitely one who's just like, man, you're just all in.
So what do you like? Do you like? How do you think it affects her? Like, what do you see from it from her? Like, what is the does that make sense? What I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
from a perspective of like, because I agree, I think they both are huge prayer warriors, but like,
Yeah.
what do you think it is that
I think it stems from a place of dependence.
Yeah.
I really do. Of just understanding, like, man, God really is who He says He is,
right?
and I really do need Him as much as I think I do.
Yeah,
And sometimes you try to take matters into your own hands, and sometimes you get to a point where you understand that letting go and surrendering really is the best move you can make.
yeah.
And so,
So we were talking Sunday about this idea that like proximity is power, and the more we
I love
spend
that.
around Jesus, and the more we spend around God, that we're gonna increase this. But sometimes it doesn't change our outside things, but it changes inwardly.
Mhm.
Like, what have you seen in your life that like the content of our prayer kind of changes the content of our soul, right? Like who we pray for, how we pray for, and that kind of stuff. Have you seen that in your life over years?
More than I'd like to admit.
Yeah.
Or I guess maybe that it's a good thing. But
Yeah.
I think too, like, there's sometimes you have dreams, um, and sometimes you're like, man, God, I really just wish that you'd open this door. It's been jobs before,
Yeah.
it's been, related to music before. Like, it's been with kids. It's been, all these things. But sometimes it's been with a spouse. But I think, sometimes God knows what you need before you realize. And so, I mean, what about you, man? What are some ways that you've seen that?
Man, I think the most drastically changing thing is that I've seen God challenge me on my prayers. Like, I have prayed inappropriately. And what I mean by that is like I've prayed like not with genuineness of heart. Like sometimes you pray for things or for opportunities or stuff like that.
Mm.
And I get challenged by God, that God's saying, hey, like, how about you pray that my will be done? And how about you pray that like, are you praying for the people in your life to be successful and healthy and happy? Are you praying that they will be more in love with me?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Even for my kids, like you have a tendency, like I want my kids to do well, right? But like, is my first prayer for them that they would know Jesus more? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I think that I've been challenged on that a lot recently. Like the people I'm praying for, what is my goal for them? Yeah. And I have slipped into that habit of only praying when things are going wrong, or when I'm anxious, or when I'm scared or nervous. Yeah. And I don't do as good of a job when things are going well.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's been a tug of war between desire, like self desires, and then replacing them with God's desires. And
Yeah.
it's kind of, and the thing that I think God's taught me the most in that is that He cares more about who He's making me to be than what I'm called to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so
it does.
I think specifically, I do some side projects. I'm in Nashville a lot writing songs, and it's like, hey, who is this for? Like, what is the purpose? Like, who does, what is God wanting to do through these songs? Like, how do they serve, or who do they serve?
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's like, oh, but this would be perfect. And then God's like, that one's just for you. It's okay if nobody else hears it, and it's just like, hey, this is what I taught you. This is for you. You can share it with other people, but it doesn't have to be for the masses in order to make an impact.
Yeah.
And I think that that's huge.
What do you think the difference is between praying out of habit and praying out of need?
Man, you going through the motions versus,
Yeah.
like having a big major life crisis.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's easy to pray when you have a need.
Yeah.
Do
you pray at the same time, or do you pray at different times? Do you pray the same prayers?
I think, if we're talking about what does it mean to, pray consistently, you know,
Yeah.
like Paul says. I think it's just a conversation. Like when I think about talking to God, I just talk to him,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that that happens on the regular. I don't really think about, you know, oh, this is the time when I pray. Like
Mm.
I obviously pray, you know, in my quiet time. I pray before I write a song. I pray, you know, with the family before mealtime. You know, like, but I think in terms of just the everyday, day to day, you know, if there's something that God puts on my heart, it's like, hey, can you help me with that? Um, you know, what are you, you know, when you're going through something, it's like, God, I'm a little nervous, you know, like pray before here. Like, you know, like I'm a little
Yeah.
nervous coming, you know, driving in the car on the way to shoot this. And I'm like, why am I nervous? Just talk about Jesus.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think that praying habit is a bad thing at all, right? I think like getting into a routine is good.
yeah, 100%.
And you were talking about this earlier, but like, do you think there is what's the danger of formula?
Man, I'm bad with routines. So I don't know if I can speak to that too well, but I think the danger of formula, um,
And what I mean by
yeah,
formula is like, I pray at 8 o'clock, I pray before a meal, I pray the same prayer, basically the same wordage, every day. Is there a
mm,
danger in that?
I mean, I think the danger is like, is it real? Am I just doing it to do it? Or
Like
is
to
it,
check something off?
yeah, or else am I actually, you know, in the spirit, like talking to the Lord because I want to,
Yeah.
you know, or am I doing it because I feel like I have to, you know? And I don't want to say like God's happy to hear from me anytime, you know, but at the same time, I think He wants us to talk to Him, and I think that that's the beauty of prayer.
Right.
So,
But I mean, is there some benefit though to having a pattern though?
oh yeah, I think too, especially when you're just getting started, if you don't know where to start, like
Yeah.
just being able to, you know, say, hey, I'm going to set an alarm, you know, for 8 o'clock. I'm going to set an alarm for 2. You know, I'm going to set an alarm for 7 or whatever that looks like for you. Just to like, you know, put a push notification on your phone,
Yeah.
you know, just a reminder, hey, have you talked to God today?
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes it is just out of sight, out of mind. You know, like when we see God working, it's like, oh, it's easy, but oh yeah. But when, you know, you're just going through the day to day, if you're not intentional about it, it's easy to just let it slip.
And I know that like for you, like what like the songs that we choose, you spend time in prayer for that. And
Yeah.
like even the words in the song are important to you that we only sing words of songs that we believe.
Hmm.
But I know we've had this conversation before that you don't always necessarily not believe it, but sometimes it's hard to sing it because you're not there.
Yeah, man.
So what do you do there? You just
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
There's a phrase that we used to use, and I guess we still do. Like sometimes you got to sing it till you believe it. And I think that, you know, back in the day, we were notorious as worship leaders for repeating the bridge like 7, 8 times in a row and then going back into a chorus and then doing the bridge some more, you know, like the Stand from Hillsong is a
yeah.
good example or
Yeah.
whatever, you know, like the bridge is the song, man. And I think sometimes it's like, hey, as I'm singing it, I'm like, I don't know if I'm there, but maybe by the last time, you know, I'm declaring it. I'm not just like singing it to myself,
Yeah.
you know, trying to. And I think you see that in the Psalms a
Yeah.
lot as well, in terms of like David kind of wrestling with the thing, and then by the end of the psalm, you know, he's there and
Right.
he's ready to worship.
Like fake it till you make
I
it. Is
mean,
that what it
I
is?
wouldn't go that far, but honestly, if that's what it takes to talk to Jesus, start there.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
I think you say it like I want to be this,
Yeah.
right? I want to do this. I want to say this. And then yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
He's so
What
good. Yeah, I think there's a lot of grace in prayer too. That there's not this, you know, like you said, the formulaic aspect of it. Like God just wants to hear from you. You know, I don't think that He cares too much as to when or how, or if it's perfect or pretty or, you know, well thought out beforehand. I think He
right.
just wants your authenticity.
Yeah.
So
We talked a lot about Sunday about this idea that when we go into prayer, like God doesn't necessarily promise us to like give us everything we want, but he does promise his presence and
mhm.
how that should lead to contentment. Like how do you process through when like you're praying for something and like God's answer is no or just he doesn't fix it? Like how do you handle that?
Man, um, that's really close to my heart.
Yeah.
I've gone through that a lot over the last few years. And I think what I've learned, Brad, is that his presence is the answer. It's just like that's what it's not what he does. It's just where he is. And if you're where he is, then everything else seems to fall into place. And I know that that's kind of cliche,
Yeah.
but really, like, the pursuit of his presence really is everything, because if he's close, then you're safe. And uh, I think of that line from C.S. Lewis in his book about Aslan, and where it's like he isn't safe, but he's good.
Right.
Yeah. But I really do think that you feel much safer, in God's presence than you do outside of it.
Yeah.
And so, like, things are going to be okay. Like, if when you're reading the Word and you're going through a tough time, and it's like, man, God, the prayer is like, could you just change my circumstance? Could you just change, how I see things? Even, I
Yeah.
think it kind of goes, change my circumstance. The next layer is change how I see things, and then the next prayer, it's kind of like that cyclical loop of just like, and then you always land back on, God, just be with me through it.
Yeah.
And then you start that whole rabbit trail again of like, okay, but can you still change my circumstance? Can you, And so, but
I'm glad you're here. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And
that's
I
human
think
nature.
but
Yeah.
throughout that cycle, we continue to, I guess, develop this deeper trust. And some of the things that I used to pray about, I don't even have to think about praying anymore, because I know God's in that.
Yeah.
And I have a different way of praying now.
Well, yeah,
and it's only because I've went through that process. And
Right.
he's taught me that.
People always say hindsight's 20/20 is a negative thing. You know what I'm talking about? But I think in faith, hindsight is 20/20. Like the ability to look back and see clear is actually huge,
Dude,
right?
that's so good.
Like, how often have you been able to look
Yeah.
back and be like, okay, God, you didn't change the circumstances.
Yep.
You didn't drop a pot of money on me, but you were there the whole time.
Yeah.
And that, like you said, that was better than.
Yeah, isn't that what you want?
Yeah.
If I'm thinking about my marriage, like, would I want all my circumstances to be better, or would I just want to know that my wife loves me and we're going to get through it together?
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
like, and I think it's the same way with our relationship with God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know, we've announced it. We talked about it that, Stephen has stepped down and he's gonna
Yeah.
move on to other things. And I know that for our church, and I know for me and you, we're like, our hearts are hurt. Like,
Yeah. Miss
and
that guy.
not because I think the church is gonna be okay, right?
Yep.
We have fantastic staff, they'll be okay. But my heart hurts because, he's our buddy. And like,
Yeah.
he's a friend of ours,
Yeah.
right? But like for you, like what would you say to the staff, like not to staff, but just to the church family about like, what do we do now? Like, I think we have a unique opportunity, right? To do what? Like,
Yeah.
pray.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. And I
And,
think
like-
it's a good time to remind ourselves that there's never been a better time to remind ourselves, Brad,
Yeah.
that Christ is the head of the church.
Yeah.
Like, he's still on his throne. He hasn't fallen off of it. Like, he's still good and he's still gracious. But I
Yeah.
think, like, seeking his face is always the answer. Like, God, what are you wanting to teach us through this? What are you wanting to show us through this? And I think that the prayer is just that posture of saying, God, I'm here to listen. And I just pray that you'll give me the ears to hear and the eyes to see
Right.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if we know that his plans are good, if we believe Jeremiah 29:11, if we believe the Psalm 23, if we believe, just the whole entire, like, promises, of his faithfulness and his truth and his goodness in our lives, then wouldn't we want to just seek that?
Yeah.
Like the ask, seek, knock, like what the parable was talking
Yeah,
about. Like,
yeah.
like, if we're asking, God, show me this, if we're continuing to seek out what that looks like for us, and we continue to knock on the door, like, he's going to open it. It's just a case of staying persistent and staying continuous in that pursuit of him. And,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what happens. I know it's, I've gone through quite a few pastor changes over the course of years with my home church. And then obviously we've had 2 since I've been here on staff. And God's been good the whole entire time. And, there's been periods of it where you're asking the question, where you're doubting, and it's like, man, God, I don't see the clear picture.
Right.
But, I think that just, once again, like, if he's preparing our hearts for eternity, then part of that process is trusting him. And he has to put certain circumstances in our path in order to show us that he is trustworthy. And,
Yeah, and the honest truth is, like,
Yeah.
back to the parable, like, we kind of mock the fact that in afterwards Jesus talks about, like, what father would give his son stone instead of bread or a
Mhm.
scorpion and all those things. And we think, who is dumb enough to eat a rock that thinks is bread? And it's me,
Or hold a scorpion.
right?
Yeah, yeah. You're right,
It's me.
man.
So I think that I have to remind myself that like, there's not just a desire for God to fix things in my life. There needs to be a recognition that I need him in my life because, man, my brain has a tendency to not do even what I like Paul says, right? Like I know what I should do, but I don't do it. So like how much more important is it for us to like not just ask, not just knock, but to seek, right? Like to go out and say, okay, God, like, is this a stone or is this bread? Right? Like what's my next step? Like, is this a scorpion? Is this going to kill me or is this going to be good for me?
Right.
Like in just making sure we ask those questions. So,
Yeah,
I would,
absolutely.
like as we kind of wrap up, I think
Yeah.
I would love to know, like, what do you think, like for you is like, what's been like the best instigator of prayer for you? Like if someone was out there and like, I don't pray very often, I don't pray very much, I don't really know how to pray. Is there any resource or anything that you do or anything that you've done that's like really set you up for success for prayer?
I think we always think of prayer as a doing action.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the best thing that you can actually do is just sit and wait.
Hmm.
It's almost like the opposite of what you think you should be doing. And it's just like, God, you say the prayer. Here's an example. Like, I'm coming in like, God, I don't know what you're wanting to teach me today, but I want to know it and I'm open to it. And, you flip open your Bible, start in the gospel, start in Luke, read some parables and just be like, God, reveal something to me, read something, and then just sit with it, And I think that sometimes he speaks quickly. Other times sometimes it takes you a little while to hear it. And I think throughout the day, if you're doing your quiet time in the morning, being able to say like, God, teach me something today. It may be through the word. It may be 4 hours later that references something that you read, that the light bulb comes on.
Yeah.
And God says, hey.
And like quiet time, you mean just like getting rid of some distractions, putting your phone down, like turning the TV off, like just focusing on God.
Yeah,
right?
like almost
quieting
meditation.
everything else
meditation.
except
Yeah,
for
like
God,
it's not
yeah.
a practice that we talk about too frequently because
Yeah.
of the pace of life these days. But
Mhm.
there's a reason why Kobe Bryant,
Did he meditate?
yeah,
Really?
before games, yeah,
Oh,
man.
he was a pretty good basketball
sometimes,
player.
yeah. But I think in terms of how we apply that to a prayer life, like it does help you focus. Like it trains your mind to focus.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we need to train our minds to focus on Jesus.
Not sometimes. All the time.
Absolutely.
Right?
But I think that in terms of the meditation part,
Yeah.
that's an aspect of how we can do that.
Yeah.
If we're called to renew our minds,
Mhm.
in Christ Jesus, that's one way we can do it, like with the intake.
Mhm.
But I think it's also with just sitting.
Yeah. I love the idea that like we call it the Lord's Prayer, but it's really our prayer, right? Like it was given to us. And so I think if you're out there and you don't know exactly how to pray, like take the Lord's Prayer, write it down, and then just kind of put it in your own words, right? Like just kind of say, okay, this is, starts with glory to God, and then it works its way through asking for forgiveness and then giving my daily bread. And then, but I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing. But I think, I think you're right. I think just sometimes I want to pray and be done and move on
Mhm.
as opposed to sitting in it for a little bit and
Yep.
just being like, okay.
Yep.
You
And
know?
there's certain moments where you have more time than others.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a case of planning accordingly.
Yeah.
Like if you are seeing there's a lapse in your time with the Lord,
Yeah.
then maybe you got to remove something else in order to make, once or twice or 3 times a week being a little bit more extended with that versus like a more, time, focused 2 minute here, 10-minute there.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
give the Spirit time to speak.
Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out, man.
Dude, this is so fun. Thanks for having me.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
I could, but I won't.
Well, we're glad you were hanging out and watching with
Yeah.
us. If there's something that we can pray for you, we have a prayer team at New Hope.
do.
And there's a lady who runs it, and she is so diligent about getting that out. So if you ever send a prayer request in a church, she sends it out to all these people who are our prayer warriors and
Yeah.
praying. So if you want to post that in a comment and get it to us, we'd be happy to pray for you guys. We have people down front at the end of every service that
Yep.
can pray with you. You know, our staff is always here. We're always here to do that.
You
But-
can call or text us.
Yeah.
Like, like
Yeah.
if you want to talk, if you need
or how
something.
to pray or what it looks like or
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. I know all of us are learning, but
Yeah.
we love you
we don't
guys.
know everything, but we'll help walk with you
Yeah.
through it,
And we're so glad you tuned in. We will see you next week.
next week.
Yeah. See you guys.
Bye.